Satsuki looking for that damage, finds him on the Diablo. Diablo forced it back out as their health drops low. The Immortal now is at 25%.
Back down, Yo on the Greymane, gonna be the first to fall. But is it ETC? No, that's Malthael up there. A triple.
The Leyline used in the back, catching 3 people on top. That followed up by the APOC and the Lurking Hawk. Catching 2, but this time on is gonna be the first one.
Wow, did you see that mosh pit? 4-man mosh pit while on a conveyor belt. That was like a regular sushi.
There's the lead, catches him in the mud pit. Time trap does pop. Mosh pit goes out. Fubu's still in trouble. Pops to stay a while and listen, but it's not gonna matter.
Here comes the bloodlust on the backside, but the Duo gets punished and then stunned. Oh my goodness! The combo!
Getting shrunk down, ETC getting killed. He becomes dog food for the Greymane.
I didn't think they had a chance. I thought it was all over. We said all or nothing, and they got absolutely everything.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Nexus Gaming Series. I'm Arrow. I'll be your caster this evening. Just fixing the screen there a little bit. And welcome tonight to Division C West, where we've got the semifinals matchup between Bork Side of the Moon and ReGen Reborn. And I'm really looking forward to this. This is a double round robin division, so these teams have played against each other already a couple of times this season. And this is their third matchup. So far this season, Bork Side of the Moon has won both of the matchups, 2-1. So can they continue that trend, or can Reborn flip the script and get themselves a victory to go on to the Coastal Finals? Let's take a quick look at the standings. We'll take a look at the brackets, and then we're going to get into your map bans. So let's start with I think this is standings. Nope. We'll do map bans first. All right, so map bans coming out from Bork's side. We've got the bans on Cursed Hollow and Tomb of the Spider Queen. ReGen Reborn, they banned out the Braxis Holdout and Alterac Pass. The first map tonight is going to be on Infernal Shrines, that Diablo map. And let's take a look at the standings. We've got ReGen Reborn there, number 3. We've got Bork Side of the Moon there, number 2. And you can see Bork Side 28 points, ReGen 21. The top 2 teams of this division did really, really well in their overall points for the season. Let's take a quick look to see what the bracket looks like. You might be able to guess based on the teams you see there, but there you go. That's what we got. So Bork Side of the Moon and ReGen Reborn there at the bottom. Whoever wins this will go on to face against the winner of ICC TBD and Banned for Throwing. Gotta ban something. Exactly. Speaking of banning, we're ready to go. We've got things started here with the bans coming out onto Kerrigan and Leoric from Bork Side of the Moon on the left. Sylvanas and somebody else coming up on the right side here in a moment. And just shrines. It's gonna be Anduin, so okay. And so far, I've seen a lot this playoff season. I've seen a lot of bans on Brightwing and Johanna, and that's been in a couple of different divisions, so it seems to be kind of across the skill level, if you will. So I'm a little surprised to see both of those heroes making it through. Some other top heroes with a lot of bans lately. Sylvanas is one of those, and Anduin's another one. And there's that Johanna. So seen a lot of the Diablo bans as well. Who else did we see? Some Tychus, although that was more in the third. I think that was more targeted or dependent on what they had in their comp specifically. So Johanna going to be the first ban. We're going to get a Varian and a Stukov. So very likely looking to get that taunt into that silence combo. Varian can get rid of Johanna's shield quite easily with that level 13 shattering throw. Stukov, of course, can just if Johanna doesn't have a shield anymore, Stukov just says, no, you can't do anything. You don't get to immune yourself with that shield anyways. Hogger and Rhaegar. So those were two heroes that I was actually going to mention might be kind of higher priority as well. So not really surprised to see them picked up here, especially going into that variant of Stukov. Both teams starting off saying we don't want to give away what our damage potential is going to be. And also maybe we want to have an opportunity to flex a little bit. So Rhaegar has that ancestral, but also has Bloodlust. So could see some Bloodlust action out of that Hogger with some auto attackers on the backside of Bork's side. But again, that Ancestral is a huge heal, so that can help to counter some of the big burst potential of something like maybe a Mephisto or Li Ming or some of the other, the Pyroblast coming out from Kael'thas. We're going to get a Deathwing ban, followed up by Blaze. So no bunker potential there. No Entomb combos. I do recall Kerrigan, a hero that does see some good play out of ReGen Reborn. Jason's going to pick up that Jaina. And Dahaka going to be the pick for Phantoms. Leaving that final DPS slot open for Rabid Penguin. Our last two picks here for Bork Side of the Moon coming up. Going to likely be a couple of damage. I suppose it could be another bruiser potentially. This is a very large map, and the only global we've got right now is Dahaka. Kind of limited on the global potential of what's left. Could be a false set, or we'll just say, you know what, we don't need to be anywhere on the map, but right here where we're at, and we're gonna get the Sergeant Hammer. And depending on what, oh, and by the way, also Lunara. So depending on what we see here, I mean, Hogger, Lunara, and Hammer, even Johanna can go into a little bit of auto attack bonus abilities, could all benefit from that Bloodlust, could really push down a fort rather quickly, showing up with that Sergeant Hammer, with Lunara and Hogger, like actually being able to just sit there and pound away at the structures. But we're gonna get Tassadar as that last pick, and that's a pretty solid pick. Tassadar can do a lot of damage to stationary targets like Sergeant Hammer quite easily. You also have the Stukov Silence, can put that onto Sergeant Hammer, keeping her locked down. She can't, if I remember correctly, she cannot get out of her siege mode with a silence on her. You've got Varian, who can then go in and taunt. There's a lot of potential play into that Sergeant Hammer, but Sergeant Hammer can knock Varian back as well. So we'll see how this plays out. The Unstoppable on the shield for Sergeant Hammer can also make a big play here. But we're getting into game number one between Bork Side of the Moon and ReGen Reborn right now.
Prepare yourselves for battle, heroes.
There we go. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started on the left for Bork Side of the Moon, ranked number 2 in Division C West. We've got Bacon playing Lunara, Yatri on the Hogger, Silver Spy there on Rhaegar. We got Dreadmaw playing Johanna, and Sergeant Hammer going to be played by Cutie Puppy. Might have to get my Cutie Puppy in between games here. But on the right, we've got ReGen Reborn. It's going to be Jason flexing the the taunt there on Jaina. We got MJ Doom on Stukov, Rabid Penguin on the Tassadar. Mydril Knight on Varian, and Dahaka is going to be played by Phantoms. Let's go ahead and get our talents up for display, and let's just kind of take a quick look at what we've got as far as the regular season. Did these teams play on Infernal Shrines while they're doing their initial here? So Infernal Shrines was the first map that these teams played against each other on. That winner was Bork Side of the Moon. The second time they met up, it was not played. So the only experience we have so far for this map against these two teams was a Bork side of the moon win. And of course, it's not going to let me look at the details and profile. So we'll just go ahead and come back and watch the actual match. Watch this match as opposed to the history of the other map. All right, so both teams going to head over to their siege camp. Jaina's going to do the majority of that one, and Lunara coupled with Rhaegar going to start working on the blue side. Jason BMing already. Exactly. I mean, listen, if you can't taunt in your own base, where can you taunt? Phantom struggling a little bit into the Sergeant Hammer, having to stay pretty far back because of that siege mode. But look at this. Already the first tower getting down to about half health. And this is in the top lane where the first shrine's going to be coming. It's an arcane shrine, which with those changes became a little bit weaker of the punishers. But if they can get enough damage in this top lane, it doesn't matter how weak that Punisher is early game. That can still allow them to get a early fort. And once again, seeing the difficulty of Dahaka into Sergeant Hammer. Sergeant Hammer saying, no, you don't get to play this game. You don't get to come up close to me. We're going to play far away from each other, and I'm just going to do a lot of damage to you because of that. Both teams pretty equal on the experience here, and let's take a look at how that compares between them. Right now, a little bit more for, just barely more for Sergeant Hammer there, like 1 minion's worth of XP. But overall, minion XP pretty similar, a little bit behind is Reborn as the first Punisher coming up in the top lane. Now, I'm interested to see if there's any shift in this Sergeant Hammer play, and it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen. They're maybe going to shift down either. I'm not thinking that they're looking for a fight. I think that they're just looking to rotate Hammer down, getting XP, and potentially looking to push in a lane for later game value. There's the Varian taunt coming out with the tongue from Phantoms, and that's going to be first blood onto Hogger. Hogger not able to get out of the danger zone there with his Hog Wild. It's Bork side of the moon, Nomi. Bork side, not Bark side. Very close, though. Very close. And welcome, Nomi. Good to see you. Like Druids and Barkskin. Level 7 now available. Getting the taunt onto Lunara. There's the TAS Force Wall. And we see the value of this Varian comp early in this game. Having that level 4 heroic. Being able to lock down a hero and secure 2 kills, that's pretty certainly going to give this first Punisher over to ReGen Reborn. However, as mentioned, Sergeant Hammer getting some pretty decent siege value here in the mid lane and also keeping that XP up. So even though they've lost the 2 heroes worth of XP, they still do have a pretty similar overall XP contribution. Punisher coming up, no damage on this wall, so this is where ReGen is looking to get their first damage out there. They're not even really putting much into the wall to help with that Punisher or to assist the Punisher. It's just going to get pulled over, a lot of damage going out onto it, and the wall's not even going to go down. 1 tower down, wall will eventually fall to the minions, and Force Wall there from Tassadar, making sure that the bulk of Bork side, nah, I'm going to call it Bark side. Yikes. Anyway, so Bork side not able to come out and play because of the electric fence that Tassadar put up there. Sergeant Hammer back up in the top lane, wants to keep this pressure up. Now, next shrine will come either in the middle or bottom lanes, and it should be coming up here soon. There it is, middle. It's going to be a Frozen Punisher, and that'll be shortly after having level 10, so that's going to be a really valuable Punisher. Quick kill there onto the Hogger. Johanna able to probably get out here, taking a lot of damage for this, but ultimately, the full rotation from ReGen, getting them 1 step closer and just a moment away from level 10s, and there they are. With the siege camp now and the full squad up in the bottom lane here, they're able to put in a little bit more damage onto this fort wall. Johanna's going to make use of her Unstoppable to be able to get away. Now, at level 13, that changes entirely. When Varian gets Shattering Throw, Johanna can no longer do exactly what she just did. Step forward and try to provide that front wall, brick wall support for her team and push everybody from the opposing team back. If she gets far enough out there, Varian is able to destroy that shield. Then she's got a force wall to deal with and Varian's taunt. We bark just as much as we bork. You know, fair enough. Matlock, fair enough. You see Varian kind of hesitating there, doesn't want to go after that Johanna because they don't have the ability to get rid of that shield. There's the taunt, there's the force wall. And did Johanna just... There's the blessed shield. Okay, so Varian's going to pop shield wall, getting that protect, and MJ Doom with the pushback coming from Stukov, knocking everybody back and stopping that engage. Sorry, Pat. Up in the top lane, though, Sergeant Hammer getting that damage done. The full wall is gone. Phantom's probably in danger here. Does get the burrow just in time and knocks back the Johanna. So able to sneak away just in time. Now, in the opposite end of the map, ReGen Reborn starting to push in on this bottom fort. And this looks like it's going to be a trade. 1 fort for 1 fort. And it'll be interesting to see which team this favors, because the next Punisher could be either the top or bottom. Well, it's going to be one or the other. It will be top or bottom after this current one. It can't go middle again. So both teams now have an opportunity. The question is which one of them wins the coin flip on the next Punisher. If it's top lane, Bork Side of the Moon wins that. If it's the bottom lane, Reborn wins that. And when I say win, I don't mean they get the Punisher. Obviously, it's not for free, but they definitely have a little bit easier time of it. There's Varian looking for the Johanna. Force wall coming in. They don't have 13, but they do have a silence, and that's going to be a quick kill out onto the Johanna. Phantom's pulling back with that burrow as well. And Tassadar popping the Archon, coming in, pushing forward. Maybe looking for the hammer. They do get the charge in, but can't get the secured kill. But it's not going to matter because Hogger's going to go down. And the Ancestral came out, but just a little bit too late. Could not get away from that Varian. Sergeant Hammer now trying to just kind of keep him in the numbers game. But Cutie Puppy there kind of playing a dangerous game. You see Mydral Knight coming in from behind. Was maybe looking to snipe the Sergeant Hammer, and another kill on the side of Bork side would have been pretty bad for them, especially if it would have been Sergeant Hammer, because Sergeant Hammer's the one that wants to be able to do siege onto the Punisher as it gets pulled over the wall here. Johanna's going to pull it over, does not use her Unstoppable. Instead, pulling it off to the corner, trying to keep the ice away from the structures because this frozen Punisher shuts down the towers, shuts down the fort. Johanna's going to get caught in the silence there with Varian's taunt, but able to make it out. The Sergeant Hammer getting leapt on from the Punisher, and just enough healing at the last moment there from Silver Spy, keeping Cutie Puppy in this game. And ultimately, the fort will survive. Mid lane pressure on the other side, though, from the siege camp. As the full wall down and, you know, just keeping that minion wave pretty far back. That actually probably helped significantly to prevent mid fort from going down, because the minion wave was not in a position to push forward and provide additional damage, to provide additional soak for the shots coming from the tower. Johanna's the target. This time, not going to get that silence follow-up. However, Johanna's still pretty far forward. They're looking for the Jaina, not quite able to get her. So just some damage. No significant use of cooldowns there. Varian and Stukov. Name a more iconic and painful duo. Varian Li Ming? You know, just saying, maybe. Varian Toronto's a good one. Absolutely. What about, you know what? If we really want to talk painful duos, what about Varian Gul'dan? Ugh. All right, Blessed Shield going out. Big slows out onto 4, and MJ Doom going to be caught. Dahaka's coming in from behind. They're going to get the kill out onto the Johanna. Jason having to pull back is very low, but with Tassadar and the Water Elemental coming in, getting a double kill. So 2 for 1 in favor of ReGen Reborn, and that should give them the value of pushing in the mid lane here. Tassadar getting that additional damage out onto the Sergeant Hammer. And keep in mind too, we do have this shock ray ability bonus damage, right? Percentage damage every time that Tassadar hits somebody with that Q, it's gonna hurt. And having the level 1 stacking trait along with that, the quest, means that it gets more and more significant over the rest of the game. 2 forts down on the side of Bork's side of the moon. ReGen Reborn looking to take down a third one. And it is Punisher up in the top lane. So I mentioned earlier that third Punisher would favor potentially Bork's side of the moon if it went into the top lane. But having these kills and now evening out top lane makes it so that this is now anybody's Punisher and equal value. Big stun coming out. Varian's going to not make it out, I don't think. He's very slow. Gets blocked off by Hogger's Loot Horde. He's going to try to sneak out of there, but just can't quite get there. And once again, the Ancestrals are just a quarter of a second too late every single time. A quarter of a second, Johanna lives there, and they turn around and they get another kill and another kill, but they just can't quite get that timing down. And that is unfortunate for Bork's side and very impactful for ReGen Reborn. If Bork's side can get that timing to work just slightly better, these fights could turn around very significantly. But ReGen opting to pick up a little bit of XP, get a siege camp out, or a shaman camp out here a little bit later than Bork's side, so it'll be on their side of the map. Jason just offering himself up as a sacrifice there to the the moon gods, as it were, giving them full control of this third Punisher. And that is a very dangerous time to have your primary AoE damage really losing that fight. So because they don't have Jaina, Reborn going to head down, pick up some siege value in the bot and mid. There is some catapult pressure down here in the bot, so if they can keep the full squad busy up in the top lane, which obviously they can't because Hogger's already here, but as much as they can keep here, it's going to be beneficial for them in this bottom lane until Hogger has to go deal with that, which it looks like he's doing right now. But in the top lane, this Mortar Punisher is going to absolutely just dissolve the frontline defenses, especially with Sergeant Hammer. We're going to get the pull over the wall from Dahaka. Uses the burrow to avoid the leap and stun. Tassadar's going to pop Archon. Siege mode activated there by Sergeant Hammer. And let's zoom out just a little bit because we're playing a very long game here. Very distant. Jaina going in, looking to try to slow down Sergeant Hammer, but can't quite get there. The Punisher will take out the first keep of the game. ReGen on the hunt. They know that Hogger's not here. If they can find somebody, and they're really looking for that Sergeant Hammer, because the Sergeant Hammer is the slow one. So if they can find that hammer, they want to get that kill. But they are now deep into enemy territory. We see the danger pings there. Johanna's ready for it. They know. Lunar is going to scout it out, as is Sergeant Hammer, with her napalm strike, giving the vision. I imagine with a new 7-week-old, these Stukov puddles are triggering Matlock. I don't even want to think about that. All right, Dahaka's up in the top, but he can get here very easily. Johanna's going to come out, gets the shield out onto Varian. He's going to get locked down. Electric feints coming in from Tassadar, but Hogger absolutely deleted, and now Reborn coming in on the offense. Dahaka coming in, looking for the Johanna, is going to get the tongue, and the silence coming out from Stukov in front of where Johanna was going, but not quite where Johanna was. Another fight in favor of Reborn, and now they are going to get those level 20s, those storm talents, and start making their way ahead and seeing where they can get value. Bottom lane is pushed up. It does have the first tower down as well, and you see, this is what I was just going to bring up. Mid lane, however, is the next Punisher. It's an arcane Punisher, and arcane late game arcane Punishers are very deadly. You don't want to be caught under one of those when they jump and stun. So pushing the lane forward, I think, gives them the value. They've got 12 seconds until Hogger, 15 now until Johanna. So this lane, I think, is the one that you want to prepare, especially when you've got those level 20 Storm talents ready to go. And I think one of maybe the most impactful ones that we have here, of course, you've got that Winter Mute, which is a big damage ability, but right there, Force Wall coming out from Tassadar, that's a reduced cooldown and additional range. That gives Tassadar a lot of flexibility for his team with the Varian Taunt and the Stukov Silence. And this is maybe a bit dangerous, but they get that damage through on that siege camp very quickly. Johanna's going to come in behind, kind of open the door and noped right out of there. Knew that they didn't have the support from the rest of their team and said, this is not the fight that we want to take. However, that fight is coming up soon. We've got the Ancestral upgrade as well. We've got the upgrade to Blessed Shield, so longer stuns with more targets. You no longer really have to hit the direct target that you want to stun for the longest. You can just throw it out there as long as you hit somebody. They're all going to get stunned for a long time. So we'll see how this goes. Phantom's coming in, gets the pull out onto Johanna. Taunt coming out. The silence way off in the distance, so not able to lock Johanna down. There's the Ancestral. It's coming back in a moment, and that's going to be a big double heal. We see Varian in danger, but Silver Spy jumping in with not a whole lot of health. Was really playing a dangerous game there. Trying to dive in onto the Tassadar, but ultimately no deaths with a whole lot of ultimates used. Varian coming in has that taunt available, so looking for a target. He can't get the Hogger. Hogger's unstoppable for eternity. Big, massive shockwave out of Hogger. It's going to be a triple stun, but Johanna's going to fall first. Jason in the back line, though, is going to get taken out, so that's 1 for 1 so far. Varian looking really low, gets that shield wall just in time, but Lunara is going to finish most of the job. Rhaegar's actually going to bite and finish that job, but this Arcane Punisher is going to get into the mid lane. Top lane, though, check this out. This could be a threat, and that's why Hogger's going back to deal with this. Having no front line, that Johanna completely gone, means that this is not going to be a game-winning push. Or at least it shouldn't be, unless they are able to get some additional kills out of this. But they can't really follow up on that Punisher jump onto the Tassadar. Siege mode from Hammer's not going to get them there. Lunara doesn't have Leaping Strike, so she can't get in there. And Rhaegar, the one person who can really dive in there, doesn't want to be in that position. So not a big surprise. The Punisher's going to go down. The wall down at this keep. Still overall map value in favor of Bork Side of the Moon. The kills in favor of ReGen Reborn, and they've had some good team fights. But the timing of the successful team fights from Bork Side of the Moon has given them a significant advantage in this game. And just like we saw earlier with Reborn, we're going to see now Bork Side of the Moon heading over to pick up all of the offensive and neutral siege camps on the map. But with level 20 talents here and all of the ultimates available, the next fight could very well be the game-ending fight. Bottom lane is going to be the push from Bork Side. That's the selection. That's going to give a shaman camp and maybe a free keep. Varian maybe kind of giving off where they're going, and that's actually going to prevent them from getting too much out of this. They're going to take down the wall and the tower. They don't get too far. They have the Stukov knockback here, but really this value is probably better than the bottom lane value. Trading the tower and getting that shaman camp means that Borkside cannot put any pressure in this top, or at least any more pressure. They certainly have their catapult, so it's going to keep pressuring in this lane, but they can't get that before the shrine, which would have been a bit more challenging for Reborn to have to deal with. So that gives Reborn a little bit of value there. And of course, that next Punisher is in the top lane. Unless something really crazy happens, most likely, if that goes over to Bork Side, it's game over. Bork Side's going to win it. If it goes over to ReGen, it's a little bit harder for them to win it, but if they're able to do it by killing several members of Bork Side, then ReGen could also win it. There's really no defense preventing them from taking down that keep and then moving toward the core. When we look at the ability to siege up, both teams have pretty decent siege. Jaina can do pretty decent damage, as well as the Tassadar. And then of course Lunara and Sergeant Hammer, both in a position to do quite a bit of damage there to structures. Hardly any damage there, even with that full shock lance right onto the Sergeant Hammer. just a very minor blip. I think that Hammer may have hit a shield or something in there. But with siege mode activated there, Hammer able to just keep pushing forward. Phantom's dropping down, does get very low here. Varian falling would be devastating. Hogger is going to be receiving that Ancestral, and it's the upgraded level 20, so they get it a second time. Keep is going to fall here now. Well, if they can get that damage out on that Sergeant Hammer, maybe the Keep doesn't fall, and they're really trying at this point. And you see here, that was about a third, maybe even a little bit more of Sergeant Hammer's health. Each one of those shock rays doing absolutely mega damage to Sergeant Hammer. 33 seconds until Varian can make it onto the map. And this is a tough call. Where do you go if you're ReGen Reborn? You're probably not going to get this fight unless you wipe them. Varian's coming up in 10 seconds. You'd have to have everybody there. This might be a core rush call. Clear up the lane, push it up maybe. Varian is coming up in 5 seconds, and I think that's exactly what they're looking to do. Maybe, I don't know. They kind of are halfway doing it. Showing off where they are is making it a little bit more difficult, but at this point the clock is ticking and Bork side is on their way. They now have a Punisher. The lane is pushed all the way up to the core. Jane is going to Hearth back as well. All they've got in this lane is to provide some kind of threat to bring that keep down. And you see Borkside trying to put the nail in the coffin, bringing in that shot. Why are they not with the Punisher? The Punisher that is absolutely destroying Jason, but Jason's not here, and that's going to give a quick kill out on the Phantoms, a double pull there with the Condemn, and 3 deaths now on the side of ReGen Reborn, and that is going to give the push over to Borkside, and they will slowly make their way to the core, inching their way towards victory, maybe looking to secure an extra kill or two just to pad their stats, but that core is going to fall. Bork side of the moon going to pull it out in game number 1. I gotta say, for how long was that? How long was that match? Probably 22 minutes or so. No, it's a little bit longer than that. It's 25 minutes maybe. 22 minutes of that game. Well, the first 22 minutes of the game felt like it was either neutral or favoring Reborn in the overall team fights. And as you get later in the game, team fights, you win a team fight, you win the game, right? If it's a strong one. It was looking to me that Reborn was going to be able to pull that off. And then Borkside managed to find themselves one-off kills. And ultimately time those kills just like they did early in the game. Time those kills at just the right time to give them the structured value that they needed to be able to win the game. So there you go. This is how you play HOTS 101. Either win the game super fast, which almost never happens. It's certainly harder to do that these days than it used to be. Or, you know, play to 20 and just destroy your opponent when they can't get back into the game quickly. Unfortunately, my cutie puppy is asleep over on the couch, so I'm not going to be able to bring her over onto the stream. Both of my pups are in this room and are asleep. I'm pretty sure that means that the third one's asleep in the other room. You're like, you know what? That seems like way too much work to go join you on your stream. All right, let's see. So with the victory, that means that Reborn gets to choose whether they want first pick or map pick. And it looks like they've opted for map pick. Unless they haven't updated this yet. I'll just double check. We demand puppers. Well, I tell you what, if she wakes up over there, I'll certainly bring her up on stream. All right, let's take a quick flip over to the maps. That's not out. Why does it? That's not what I. Oh, yeah, okay, right. I was looking at the left at the pick, and I was like, Reborn didn't win that. That's not what my thing says. It says Borkside won that. Well, Borkside did win that, and they are currently up 1-0. Now we're going to Sky Temple, the selection of ReGen Reborn. Now let's take a look. How did that go in the regular season? Regular season, Sky Temple was not banned in the first round. It was banned in the second round by ReGen, actually. So they have not yet played each other on this map. All right, looks like we've got one player who's going to be just a moment, but we'll take a look at the bracket here. Remind everybody of the standings, and then if they're not in yet, then we'll just go do a quick quick drink or something. 1 point there for Bork side of the moon. ICC TBD and banned for throwing the other half of this Division C West bracket. And I don't think that they're playing tonight, but I'm just going to take a peek just to see. I know there are some other matches going on. Nope, they are not. So there may be some of those people watching the match tonight. Is there anybody from ICC TBD or banned for throwing in the chat tonight? Let us know. Say hello. And welcome to you. Also, thank you to the Greek Firen for the follow earlier. If you're enjoying the cast tonight, make sure you hit the follow button. Appreciate that. That way you get notified anytime I go live with Heroes of the Storm casting. Maybe looking at doing some Warcraft streaming here over the next couple of weeks, because there are some drops coming up for Warcraft. You've got that blazing hippogriff, I think is what it is, blazing hippogriff, and then of course the ethereal Hearthstone. If I remember correctly, that is a Hearthstone quote-unquote transmog, if you will, cosmetic. So you can join me for the fun and excitement of whatever I'll be doing, probably dungeons, and then also coming up in June, of course, the Diablo release is going to be coming out. So I certainly, as long as my computer actually works, which fingers crossed it will, I'm going to test it out here this week. Maybe I can do Diablo this weekend or next weekend. Certainly going to try to get some time in on Diablo so we can see the fun and excitement of struggling through a brand new game with that. Silver Spy is the best spy. Gotcha. Excellent. Glad you could join us there from TBD. All right, we have everybody in the game. I'm going to take just a moment. We're going to do a quick... I have them labeled as commercials, but it's just a quick break for whatever they're doing here. So we'll do a 1 minute video clip for you, and we'll be right back.
The Dark Nexus. It is mine to wield, to control. I am the World Breaker. The world heals with my torment. Show me my enemies. Acquire new targets. I return. fortitude. From order comes justice. Glory to the firstborn.
Go forth and slaughter in my name. The Raven Lord demands it.
The Nexus shall tremble.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We are right into the beginning of the draft, and we're going to get a Varian ban right out of the gate, not wanting to deal with that early game value that the Varian was able to provide for ReGen Reborn. And it's not a big surprise. You know, I was thinking about it while we were away for a moment there, and really what we saw in the early game was, on the side of ReGen Reborn, they were able to make use of the taunt silence combo quite significantly to get those initial kills, and the ancestrals were always just a little bit too late. And then as the health bars got a little bit heavier, and positioning maybe just in general doing a little bit more damage early in those fights to the entirety of ReGen, Lunara getting a lot of that damage, set those team fights into a different place. But also, and Greek Fire had mentioned it here, Varian and Stukov feel a little disjointed. We did start to see that as the game went on. It was harder for that combo to land. But we're gonna have to get a different combo. Sylvanas and Anduin going to be banned once again by Reborn. Varian and Leoric going to be banned out for a second time from Bork side. And their first pick is going to be Falstad. Falstad, a global hero. So I mentioned in the last game, there wasn't a whole lot of global from the side of Bork side. So adding that early in now, they've got a lot of flexibility with where they take, especially on Sky Temple, being a map where you really want to be able to get to those temple control points. All right, there's the Diablo I mentioned earlier as well. So very strong front line. I would not be surprised to see a Tychus ban with both Hogger and Diablo on the side of Bork side of the moon. Jaina and Lucio going to be the picks here for ReGen Reborn. So Jason sticking with that Jaina, and then Lucio, MJ Doom, going to be able to skate around all over the map. We're going to get a Brightwing ban from Reborn, so they don't want to give that extra global potential, and there's that Tychus. So no global potential there for Bork side, and no tank shredder from Reborn. And of course, Brightwing, we just saw Brightwing in the Deathwing trailer there that came out, feels like years ago, ages ago. We got Hogger, and we've got, who's on Bacon's playing? Falstad. Okay. All right, so it's going to be Garrosh and Thrall. So Thrall's going to be in that off lane. Garrosh looking to maybe displace Diablo. Now the question is, with Sylvanas and Tychus banned, who is the backline that you take to shred that Diablo when it gets locked down? Are you going to rely primarily on Jaina? Do you see maybe a Vala? Vala's a little squishy, but she can put out a lot of damage. And saying, hey, we did really well with this Sergeant Hammer thing last round. Let's do it again. So Bork side now with a little bit more additional Sergeant Hammer protection in the form of that Falstad with a Mighty Gust. And Sergeant Hammer, not easy for Garrosh to get to. So we'll see how that changes a little bit on the setup here. It's actually going to be Abathur. So this is an interesting pick. So Abathur, the only hero in the game that can regenerate health of structures on a map where the objective fires directly into structures. So expect to see Mule coming up most likely. I guess maybe not. I actually don't know, because with Sergeant Hammer, I would think that the potential to take down those towers and those forts is going to be significant. So there's no really strong Abathur hat target. I mean, Thrall at times, Garrosh at times. Thrall could be in that main. Oh, we're changing people around. Oh, look at this. Okay, so Phantom still is on Thrall. We got Jason going to be flipping over to Abathur, and Penguin's going to be playing the Jaina. Any other changes, guys? Did I hopefully that was the only change, because that's all that I caught before the thing changed there. So all right, we'll start over here to the right for game number 2, ReGen Reborn. It's going to be Jason on the Pajama Abathur. We got Rabbit Penguin playing Jaina, Mydril Knight on Garrosh, Phantom's playing the Thrall, and MJ Doom there on the Skater Boy himself, Lucio. And over to the left, Bork side of the moon coming in as the number 2 seed, up 1-0 in this best of 3 set. I believe it's best of 3. I hope it's best of 3. We've got Silver Spy playing the Rhaegar. We've got Yatri there on Hogger, Dreadmaw on the Diablo, Cutie Puppy playing the Sergeant Hammer, and Bacon on Falstad. And I realize that there's no correlation here, but I'm thinking of some bacon wrapped like chicken breast right now. Like, it feels like that's just it's just a thing that needs to happen. All right, so Thrall's looking for the Sergeant Hammer, gets knocked away, has the hat, and yeah, already here halfway down on this first tower. We saw this in game number 1 and doing it again. So with the spike burst, that gives a little bit more damage there for Thrall to put out onto Sergeant Hammer, but it's still tough. Thrall can get the root, but that root is not a very long time. So there we go, coming out. There's the defensive utility for Sergeant Hammer, and I think that we can expect to see Thrall not letting Sergeant Hammer get quite that close to that wall. I think he's going to be calling for that hat a little bit more often, a little bit earlier, to make sure that they don't just consistently lose that siege battle. Abathur on this map, not only is Abathur going to be able to heal up structures that don't just outright die, getting a stun out onto the Diablo, not really in a position to throw him in, even if they could, not really enough damage, just based on who they had to get him killed at the moment anyways. Falstad is pretty far forward. We see Garrosh looking, is going to get the stun. He's not. Oh, he's just barely able to get the throw, but he pays a lot of health for that. Bacon, though, nearly falling himself. A little bit of body check action there out of Garrosh for the anti-healing. Thrall up in the top lane, 1 versus 3 along with the camp here, kind of saying, guys, I don't win this. I can't clear this quickly. I don't have a ton of mana. They have all the range, and I have occasional chain lightnings. So where are we going to get additional value while I'm losing up here? The rotation coming in will help to clean that up, but that is a high value push from Bork side of the moon. Garrosh trying to find somebody there, but that high value push now opening up this top fort. If Bork side is able to take that top temple, they're able to secure that entire top fort, and that's exactly what they want to see, because they don't want Abathur to be able to heal it up. Falstad down here in the bottom lane, So that is going to make this an even fight if ReGen wants to go in and fight it. They're going to send out the Bruiser Camp to have that going. Now, Falstad has a Thrall coming in. We've got the Abathur hat. Thrall waiting on the Wolf. Was trying to see if he could get the Falstad as he was flipping over using that barrel roll, but not quite able to do it. So it looks like Reborn is going to trade that top fort and just try to get the mid temple as much value as they can. As we see now some of those shots coming from that top temple onto mid. Falstad continuing to push bottom lane forward here. We're all going to try round 2. Misses the Feral Spirit, has the hat. Not quite able to do enough damage to get him though. Bottom lane will not take any structure damage though, as Thrall and the little minions from Abathur will keep that lane pushed up. And if you're playing Abathur at this point in the game, you want to be able to provide XP value, so you want your team to be able to slow the game down, get these team fights away from the lanes where the other team can get XP, try to keep them busy so that they're not getting those temples very quickly, because the longer it takes for those temples and for those team fights to happen and for the enemy team to get that XP from the minions, the more value Abathur can get, especially if he's able to hat into multiple lanes. Checking into mid here, we may see a skirmish here in a moment. There's Diablo looking for the Jaina, does get the flip, but Diablo's a little forward, and we see Garrosh is looking for it. Does get the flip and the stun, the rotation coming in from all of the Bork side of the moon, but that's going to be the first kill out onto Diablo. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Siege Giants and Sergeant Hammer getting that structure damage, as mentioned earlier. Mule the pick for the Abathur, so again, trying to keep the structures alive as long as possible. And these early game structures, it tends to be difficult to keep them alive. Really what you're hoping for is, you know, when if you do lose any kind of keep damage or what have you, that you can keep that alive. See what I did? Keep that alive? Huh? Anybody? Okay. Thrall going into auto attack builds with Rolling Thunder and looking at some percent damage, probably trying to take out the Diablo with those throws, especially when he gets Alpha Killer at 16. And we've got here Feral Resilience, so getting that additional physical armor, which kind of makes sense when you're going up against that Sergeant Hammer. You don't want to take any, well, you don't want to take any damage, but you want to take as little damage as possible on your way when you're trying to get there. All right, Clone is the pickup there for Abathur. Pretty much as expected, but you never know. Shockwave going to be the pick for the Hogger again, as well as the Mighty Gust as anticipated. So a lot of ways for them to protect the Sergeant Hammer. And switching from Water Elemental to the Ring of Frost for Jaina there. Hoping maybe to land that onto a couple of heroes, maybe that Sergeant Hammer. Gonna get the stun, looking for the flip, can't quite get there. And instead it's gonna be Garrosh flipped into the wall. Lightning Breath is gonna come out. NJ Doom is trying to get away, can't quite get over to the Garrosh to save Garrosh. Phantom's now in danger as well, so that's gonna be a 2-0 in favor of Bork side of the moon. Was almost 3. MJ Doom trying to skate away from the Lightning Breath. And I think a little bit less indecision from Diablo on where to face that, and MJ Doom is dead, and Garrosh probably also dies. Bacon, though, taking the full brunt of that Frost Blast to the face. It is a different Jaina player. That is absolutely true. Jason is playing the Abathur this game, and Rabid Penguin playing the Jaina. 3 forts down now for Borkside, looking like a very strong team here so far in the first half of this game. I'm sorry, 2 forts down, middle just right there in the blind spot. Lucia a little bit far forward, calling out that, hey, they're on the point here. Diablo's going to get flipped. Stun misses, but Diablo's going to fall. Earth, whatever Earth thing that Thrall did, Sundering, there we go. Able to split the group, but both tanks going to fall here. That said, Diablo's coming back. I thought Diablo was already dead. What game am I watching, you guys? So anyways, so Sundering came out. It was able to knock everybody away, but not quite in time. Garrosh wasn't quite able to get onto the point. And thus, we have a boss making its way in the bottom lane to bottom lane keep. It is going to fall pretty quickly. The damage potential from Jaina and Thrall just bringing it down. Siege once again in the middle here for the Sergeant Hammer, and level 13's available for Bork side, so they get a little bit more value in these fights. Not going to be able to get that Sergeant Hammer with a whole lot of minions around. Big taunt coming out, and Hogger is going to be a quick burn there. This is an ideal time kind of for ReGen now. If they can find a fight, there's no boss that they can go pick up, so they can, you know, maybe support their siege camp, but they want to find this fight. And there's Thrall looking, is going to get knocked back. Was maybe actually saved by Hammer, because I think you know, with Diablo's positioning, he could have had him. Mighty Gust completely missing the entirety of the team. Lightning Breath going to come out from Diablo, not quite getting the kill. Oh, what a sundering! Diablo's going to go down. Falstad having to zip away, and MJ Doom skating away with the team, and that is a staggered death there. Diablo is now down for the full count. And ReGen, again, looking for some kind of target here. Falstad's going to get flipped, missing the stun just a little bit there, but that's going to be enough. Clone's going to come out, but there's no fight left in the Bork side of the moon. They're going to pull back and now pick up some shots on the side of ReGen Reborn here into this middle fort, so that'll go down soon. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, though, Cutie Puppy getting shots in the bottom lane. Clone trying to just slow things down with the Auger. And this is, you know, this is Borkside playing a really fantastic game of cat and mouse. Okay, you got a kill, but what did that kill net you? Exactly nothing. When we actually are able to continue running around the map and get value out of the temples while you're at it. But it's an even fight now, 14 to 14. A little bit low on the side of ReGen Reborn as Garrosh is going to get pulled in. Flip out onto the Lucio. He's going to zip away. And the Mighty Gust not missing anybody this time. Ring of Frost is going to come out, only going to hit the Diablo as Sundering knocking everybody away. And Phantoms is looking for something. Ancestral missing, I think, the intended target there of Hogger, but ultimately able to survive as the other target, Diablo. I don't want to say correct. The target that it went to, Diablo, was remaining heavily surrounded by enemy health bars there. And you can see maybe that the Ancestrals coming a little bit earlier in these fights, especially since they do still have a taunt in the form of Garrosh. A little bit longer of a cooldown on that taunt, but still not wanting to play that potential chicken game of when is the time that I need to get that Ancestral out there. Also, hello there, Yoda. Thank you for being here. I forgot to say hello earlier. I appreciate you stopping by and enjoying this cast tonight. Bruiser camps in the top lane coming from both teams, so providing that spell armor when they're in that large circle. Garrosh trying to stay hidden, does have the Hogger coming up, and I think he was looking for the throw, but Hogger just kind of stopped. He was just like, no, I'm gonna stand right here just outside of that range. And they both stared at each other for all of a half a second, and then they just kind of walked away. So I think Garrosh was certainly considering that throw, but ultimately no throw to be had. Siege camp picked up there in the bottom lane. Abathur does have his clone, so maybe a fight coming here in the near future. Everybody staying out of the vision, trying to look for a target. And we'll see how patient does ReGen want to be. And it looks like not overly so. They're going to have the siege camp cleared out in the bottom lane. Here comes Garrosh, kind of dancing around just barely in vision. There's the Mighty Gust coming out. So Diablo really far forward here. Is going to pop the Lightning Breath with Clone coming out as well. Sundering is going to cause a little disruption. Clone's going to get knocked into the wall, so that is gone. Garrosh falling extremely low, cannot survive even with the healing coming out from MJ Doom, as Jaina going to be the next pull. Phantom's trying to slow down the heroes to allow Lucio to escape, but it's not going to be enough. with a siege camp and with Sergeant Hammer, this keep is almost certainly gone. And hey, look at this. Hogger says, perfect timing. You remember that timing we had last game where we win fights and get structure damage? That's exactly what Bork Side of the Moon is doing. And they're maybe looking to keep going. Not a lot of time until ReGen's back on the map with their full squad. And with no Hogger here, this would probably be dangerous. But if Lucio wants to provide himself as a self-sacrifice, that might be the go-ahead play. Couple of catapults here, so all they'd have to really do is clear out these minions and protect those catapults. They get a ton of value. But instead, Mighty Gust going to throw Garrosh back, and Borkside says, you know what, we'll play this game another day. We'll come back later. You know what, Tin, I absolutely agree. Like, that fight that we just saw a few moments ago in that bottom lane looked like it was just going to be absolute death on the side of Bork's side. But they were able to kind of turn it around. Garrosh in vision. This is a 4 versus 5 and no clone. Garrosh is going to throw out the Diablo. He is going to get the stun, but the clone... Oh, sorry, they did have clone. But clone's going to be dead. And now with Lightning Breath trying to get some damage, but is going to get that kill out onto the Diablo. And now Garrosh trying to throw Thrall away to safety, but can Garrosh get out? He's going to use that Bloodthirst and the big stun from that level 16 Wrecking Ball talent, forcing the rest of Bork Side of the Moon back. And that means that they can't really get this boss at this particular moment. Diablo's a little bit low on health, not having any more souls. And you know what? Having given that extra boost in XP over to the side of ReGen Reborn, we talked about it last game. You get to 20, you can potentially win this game. So, you know, with one team fight, you don't want to be Bork side in that circumstance. And right now, Mighty Gust is available. Garrosh trying to push back. Watch for that Mighty Gust. Hogger's coming in the back line. There's the Mighty Gust, but the Unstoppable from Garrosh. But charge coming out from Diablo. They're going to get the secured kill out onto Garrosh. Hogger's going to go down, as is Lucio. Phantoms and Rabbit Penguin trying to do anything to save the game, but that's it. It's going to be basically a team wipe, as Borkside will stop and pick up a siege camp, because that's what you do when you're going to go win the game, is you stop and pick up a camp. And with 40 seconds on Jaina, 30 seconds left on Lucio, 30 seconds now on Thrall, Bork Side of the Moon looking to head to the finals. I believe this is a best of 3, so I believe this is the end of the series. So I'm gonna say congratulations to Bork Side of the Moon. I could be wrong, and we'll find out if that's the case in a moment. Because I'm not sure. Because semifinals, I think when there's 2 rounds, maybe there's best of 5. I don't know. I think it's best of 3. But ultimately, if that is the case, if it's best of 3, then congratulations go out to Bork Side of the Moon for their 2-0 victory over ReGen Reborn. And that game certainly looked like Bork Side had a plan. They executed that plan and didn't miss a beat doing it. Just going to double check to make sure it is in fact best of 3. All right, let me find out who the captain is over on the side. I did get confirmation it is best of 3, so just going to hop over for an interview. Somebody's in. Oh, there we go. I just got to figure out who the captain is. Let's see, captain's list. See West. Brookside is Silver Spy. Okay. Thanks, Tin. By the time you said it, I had it, but I appreciate that. Okay, so I sent a message to Silver Spy. We'll see if they join us here in a moment. Let me get this set up for the interview. Alrighty, I am joined by Silver Spy. Welcome to the interview and congratulations to Bork Side of the Moon on your victory. How's the team feeling after that big win?
Thank you. Yeah, pretty good. It was stressful though. Game one especially, we were really on the edge of our seats. I don't know how we pulled that one off.
You know, I can imagine game one was very stressful because it looked like it was a challenging time for you, and then things kind of came together in the end. I think a couple of things that I mentioned that flipped in the game. The early game, they started really well with the combo of Varian and Stukov, and then as the game progressed, they kind of lost that synergy. The player's synergy, not the character synergy. And early game, you guys were kind of struggling on getting some of those ancestrals at just the right time, and then you got them. And those two
got
things
flamed
flipped.
for a couple of those, yeah.
Yeah. But the one thing I did want to tell you though was that you guys, and you did this in both two games, you did a fantastic job of when you won a fight, you put structure damage on the map. When you lost a fight, you put structure damage on the map. You were always leaving that fight and getting value. So, you know, you're in C West. What is, you know, how do you guys prepare to do these things? Because that's clearly not something that every team does. You know, what's your practice like? Do you have somebody kind of pushing you to make sure that you're always doing those things?
In both games, I think we kind of just recognized Hammer OP, and Hammer can push anywhere. And in both games, we have a comp set up. They had to come to us to take a fight. So, and the easiest way to make them come to us is to just start hitting structures. So that was kind of our game plan, just set up, start pushing, and make them come fight us. And as a side result, we also get structure damage if they're too slow.
Well, and that definitely worked out in your favor, because that meant that in game number one, even though you were losing most of the team fights, you were winning the map throughout most of that game. And obviously that meant that you were able to ultimately go on to that victory because of that. So that was a really strong comp setup. Were you planning to go into that Sergeant Hammer in game number two right out of the gate, picking that last like that, or was that kind of a pivot based on what they had?
We were not. No, that was a pivot. I think we were originally, I forget who we were originally considering, but it wasn't Hammer. I actually think we were maybe considering diving them with a Genji or something. But once they showed like Jaina, Thrall, short range setup, we pivoted to Hammer to just outrange them.
Sure. And with their that final pick of Abathur, rather, not Sergeant Hammer was you guys, but Abathur, did that change anything about your plans when you got into that game number two, or did you basically just say, well, that just kind of whatever, that fits what we want to do? Like, how did that affect things for you guys?
That was really funny, actually, because we were talking in lobby about how Abathur's good on the map, but we thought they didn't play Abathur, so we weren't worried about it. And then the last pick, you know, like, well, I guess I'll eat my words. It doesn't really change our plan team fight wise, because it still doesn't fix their problem of short range. It just meant that we had to be really consistent with our structure damage, because if you leave structure at half health, Abathur's just gonna mule it and get it back up. So we made sure with game one, or for the first objective, we were able to get a full structure to make sure that even though we traded objectives, our damage was going to stick.
Right. And I don't want to get too micro level of like team fights and things like that, but there was one team fight that I wanted to kind of ask you about how it kind of turned out. It was in that bottom lane on Sky Temple there near the end. It wasn't the last one. It was maybe the second to last one. And Diablo's really far forward, and everybody kind of has this staggered line behind him. It looked like you guys were almost making a caravan out of that bottom lane. And I believe, if I remember correctly, like Garrosh came in from above, and then it looked to me like Garrosh was going to go deal with y'all in the back line. Diablo was just going to get absolutely obliterated. But then that's not what happened. So do you know the fight that I'm talking about?
I think I do, yeah.
They eventually pull back. Falstad jumps in, gets a mighty gust into the corner. You guys basically team wipe them. So was there, like, how did that go for the team? Like, what was Diablo thinking? What was the team thinking at that moment when they're getting kind of flanked by that?
So if I remember correctly, that started with we were pushing bottom with the hammer because, and we, as I said before, we were just set up somewhere, make ourselves a threat, make them come to us, and we realized they were showing mid lane. They might rotate on us from the back. And then as soon as Garrosh showed up, we decided we didn't actually like that position. Because Garrosh had that flank on us, they could come in from multiple angles, and that's kind of hard to defend against. So we were starting to pull back. I don't know what happened with Diablo. I just couldn't get out fast enough with Garrosh coming in. So we had to switch back to fighting and save Diablo, and luckily, I think he got a big lightning breath on them as they were coming in, and Soul Shield meant that he just did not die. I don't remember if he actually died at some point in the fight, or if he just survived for a while, but either way, the big lightning breath and them focusing at Diablo with Soul Shield was enough for us to win the fight.
Gotcha. And was there any, when you're in those kind of plays, because that wasn't the only fight that kind of went like that. There was another, moment later, and one earlier, and all that stuff, and one where Diablo did die, or one where Diablo didn't die, but I thought he died, and then he died later, and confused the hell out of me. But so is there, like, what kind of communication? How does the team, resolve these things? Or is it just like, hey, we play together every day, so we kind of know, when somebody's doing this is how we manage that?
A little bit of both. I think the initial call was, once we realized that we weren't getting out, was save Diablo, and then I think we all sort of start focusing on what we need to do for that, and then when an opportunity opens itself up to find someone we can turn on and kill, someone calls that, and we collapse on them. So a little bit of both.
I think if I remember correctly, that fight was Diablo was far forward, Garrosh was far forward, and ultimately the sandwich that looked like it was going to be a Diablo sandwich ended up being a Garrosh sandwich. Diablo charged Jaina's clone rather into the wall, and then once that was done, you guys kind of started to move forward and clean them up into that corner. Falstad got that big mighty gust, and then there you go. So well, before we get to shout outs, obviously aside from the one that I just talked about, I always like to ask, is there any particular moment of the match that you wanted to make sure got highlighted? Anything that your team did, the opposing team, anything that you were like, that play was A+, I want to make sure that gets called out? And you can say no, that's okay. I'm terrible about that kind of thing, but I like to ask anyways.
Usually I'd say yeah, because usually we like to play some wombo stuff, and there's usually like 5 or 6 times we get a big wombo. But no, I think both these games, nothing stands out to me. We just played really consistent slow fights, which I'm proud of us for doing, because we usually suck at those.
That is not an easy game to play.
It was not, for sure. These guys are very scary with their pick potential. They showed that in the opening stages of game 1, and we were terrified of them for the rest of the match. The entire game was just, where are they? Where are they? Watch out, I have these cooldowns up if they go on us. Be careful.
Well, good deal. I mean, clearly the communication worked, the patience worked, your focus on, making structures go down, especially in the early game, provided a lot of value in the later game, and it nets you a 2-0 victory and moving on to the Coastal Finals. So congratulations on that. Why don't we go ahead and move over to shoutouts?
Sure. Well, of course, I always have to thank my team for putting in this practice and showing up and performing super well. Thank ReGen for being great opponents. Like I said, this was a super stressful game. Really excited going into the playoffs, and they did not disappoint. Even though this was a 2-0, it was not easy by any means. They made us struggle for every step of the way. And then, of course, thank you for casting. It's always great to be able to go back and watch some professional quality VODs.
My pleasure. And just to call it out, Tin in chat mentioned the Hogger ult game 1 at the end, making the team fight work. That actually is a good shout. Hogger had a 3-person stun that absolutely just obliterated ReGen. It was a massive play.
I don't recall that, but I don't doubt it.
Yeah,
Trace Hogger is pretty insane.
Yeah, you'll catch it if you go back and watch the VOD.
I'm sure I will see it. I'm sure as soon as I join them, they will flame me for not remembering.
For sure. Well, good deal. Tin says no shout out to Tin. I made the win happen. So there you go. Well, thanks very much for joining me. Again, congratulations on the victory and good luck against whoever your next opponent is.
Thank you.
Whichever team it is. Thank you very much and catch you later.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Alrighty. Yatri had insane shockwaves both games. There you go. There you go. Well, thanks everybody for joining me tonight. We just caught... I didn't even realize that Borkside had the text in black underneath their logo there. Good. That's a really neat logo, by the way, you guys. Just want to say that's A+. Anyways, 2-0, Borkside of the Moon... Borkside of the Moon over ReGen Reborn. Borkside will continue on to face off against either ICC TBD or Banned for Throwing, depending on which team wins their best of 3 coming up, presumably later this week, one would think. So keep an eye out for that. If you are interested in catching more of the exciting casting that we had here tonight, coming up on Thursday, I'll be doing another cast, but it won't be here. It'll be actually on the Nexus Gaming Series 2 page. So twitch.tv/Nexus Gaming Series and then the number 2. That matchup is going to be, I will tell you in a second as soon as I remember who it is, because I forgot. It's going to be the Nexus division, so one of the upper divisions of Nexus Gaming Series. It's Wrong is Never Wrong, wrong with an R, O-N-G, is never wrong, versus Death and Delay. That's going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time at twitch.tv/Nexus Gaming Series 2. You can see how to spell Nexus Gaming Series there in chat under what Nightbot just posted. So I hope you'll come join me. It's going to be an absolutely nuts time, I'm sure, with the Nexus division. So we're going to get a lot of really high quality tier plays, some probably different strategies, and some things that maybe they didn't show off during the regular season. So come join us for that. And that might actually be a best of 5 series for sure. So, because that's on the Nexus Gaming Series page. So it's going to be a late night. Thanks again for joining me here tonight, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. We're going to find somebody to raid. In the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and put us on the ending page and catch you soon.